Hello everyone, we have Dr. Vani and Dr. Kev to unpack about the recent Nipah virus outbreaks in India, have prompted neighboring Asian countries to implement airport screenings and stricter border controls to prevent a wider epidemic.
You know, when we talk about a detective story in nature, you're usually thinking of something, I don't know, slow burning.
Right, a gradual shift in the climate or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today we are looking at something that plays out like a high-stakes biological thriller. I was going through the research you sent over on the Nipah virus, and, I mean, it is just terrifying. It's not just a virus, it's this masterclass in how nature can exploit every single crack in our defenses.
It really is. And what makes Nipah so compelling and so frightening is that it challenges our view of the world. We like to think in boxes.
Right.
You know, here's human health, over there is animal health, and the environment is sort of in the background. Nipah just it obliterates those lines. It's the ultimate argument for what we call One Health.
One Health.
Yeah, the idea that you just cannot keep people safe if you're ignoring what's happening on the farm or, you know, out in the forest.
That's the theme that kept jumping out at me. This isn't just a case of bad luck. It feels almost architectural, like we built the bridges that let this thing cross over.
We did.
So for this deep dive, that's what we're going to do. We're going to trace that exact path. We'll start with the explosive discovery of the virus back in 1999. It's a story in itself.
Mm-hmm.
We have to talk about the flying fox, the bat that carries it, and some of the really specific and frankly weird ways it jumps to humans. I mean, that detail about the date palm sap, I don't think I'll ever forget that.
It's a vivid image, isn't it? And we definitely need to get into the why behind the panic. We're talking about a pathogen with a mortality rate that can hit, what, 40 to 70%?
70%.
In virology, that's just a catastrophic number.
Yeah, 70% is a number that stops you cold. It's not the flu. It's not even close to something like COVID. It's basically a coin toss for your life. But, okay, let's start with that origin story. The year is 1999.
Right.
Location is Malaysia and Singapore. And all of a sudden, you have people getting sick with severe encephalitis.
Yeah.
But the crazy part to me is that they didn't know it was Nipah at first. The initial theory was completely wrong, wasn't it?
It was. And that misdiagnosis, it actually made things a lot worse. Initially, health officials thought they were dealing with Japanese encephalitis.
Okay.
Now, Japanese encephalitis is spread by mosquitoes, so naturally, the government's response was to launch these massive fogging operations to kill mosquitoes.
So spraying insecticide everywhere.
Clouds of it, thinking they're saving lives.
But the real culprit was standing right there in the pigsties.
Precisely. While they were out fogging for mosquitoes, the virus was just tearing through the pig population. And this is where that One Health idea is so clear.
Right.
If they had just looked at the animals first, they would have seen the red flag. Japanese encephalitis usually doesn't make pigs that sick. But in this outbreak, the pigs were developing this harsh, barking cough. They were twitching, crashing into walls.
So the pigs were the alarm bell.
They were the alarm bell, and everyone was ignoring it because they were so focused on mosquitoes.
I was reading about the way these farms were set up in Malaysia, and it's like we designed a trap for ourselves.
Oh, so?
Well, they weren't just pig farms. To maximize space, the farmers had planted mango trees and durian trees directly over the pig enclosures.
And that one decision, that specific agricultural practice, was the key that unlocked the whole spillover event. You created a vertical interface.
Why is that?
Well, up in the trees, you have the terapus fruit bats, the natural reservoir for the virus.
The flying foxes.
Flying foxes. They come to eat the mangoes. They might eat a little, drop a half-eaten piece of fruit that's now covered in their saliva, or they urinate while they're roosting, and then gravity does the rest.
It falls right down into the pig pen.
And the pig eats the contaminated fruit. And this is where the biology gets really scary. The pig acts as what we call an amplifier host.
An amplifier?
Yeah. The virus replicates inside the pig at these incredible levels, much, much higher than it does in the bat. So now you don't just have a sick animal, you have a biological bellows, just pumping massive amounts of virus into the air with that barking cough.
And the farmer is standing right there in the middle of it.
The farmer is standing right there. The data shows the people who died in that 1999 outbreak were almost exclusively those with very close contact to pigs. It was a clear chain reaction.
Bat to pig to human.
All because someone planted a fruit tree over a pigsty.
It's incredible. It effectively destroyed the pig farming industry in that region. They had to cull over 1 million pigs to stop it.
1 million.
But once they identified the virus, they traced it back to its source, the flying fox. And this leads to what I found to be the most confusing part of this whole thing.
Let me guess. The geography.
The geography, yes. Let's call it the map paradox. So we know Nipah outbreaks happen in this specific belt, right?
Right.
Bangladesh, India, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore. But the bats, the Pterophis genus, they are all over the place. They're in Australia. They're found throughout the South Pacific. In all these regions that have never reported a single Nipah case.
It is the single biggest question mark hanging over the entire field. If the reservoir host is present in, say, Papua New Guinea or Queensland, why aren't we seeing outbreaks there?
Is it a different strain of the virus, maybe? Or are the bats just behaving differently?
It's probably a combination of things. We know that viral shedding in bats isn't constant. They don't just fly around spewing virus all the time.
Okay.
Stress plays a huge role. Things like deforestation, lack of food, even pregnancy. These events can trigger the virus to flare up in the bat and start shedding.
Yeah.
So one theory is that the bats in Malaysia are simply under more environmental stress than the bats in Australia.
Or maybe the human interaction is just different. I mean, in Malaysia, we built that bridge with the pigs.
Exactly.
But in Bangladesh, which is the other major hotspot, the bridge is completely different. It has nothing to do with pigs at all.
No, in Bangladesh and parts of India, the mechanism is much more direct and, in a way, more insidious. It completely bypasses livestock. This is the date palm sap pathway.
This part really stuck with me because it feels so, I don't know, traditional. It's not an industrial farm. It's just people collecting sap from a tree.
It's a huge cultural staple there. In the winter, harvesters will shave the bark of the date palm and hang a clay pot to collect the sap overnight. It's sweet, it's full of energy, and people often drink it raw first thing in the morning.
But the problem is, the bats love sugar just as much as we do.
We have infrared camera footage of this now, and it's just haunting to watch. You see the Pterophis bat fly up to the shaved part of the tree. It licks the sap as it flows. It might urinate near the collection pot.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes it even hangs there and drinks directly from the pot.
So you're basically creating a little viral culture in a clay pot overnight.
And because the sap is drunk raw, there's no heating process to kill the pathogen. You are literally drinking a Nipah cocktail. This foodborne route is the primary driver for the outbreaks in Bangladesh.
And that explains why those outbreaks are seasonal.
Exactly. They happen during the sap harvest from about December to March.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
With the pigs, at least you can see that they're sick. You can hear that cough. But a pot of sap just looks like a pot of sap. There's no warning.
And that lack of warning brings us to the third and maybe the most critical mode of transmission, person to person.
Right.
In that first Malaysia outbreak in '99, human-to-human spread was actually pretty rare. But in the Bangladesh and India outbreaks, we see it all the time.
Why the difference? Did the virus change?
There is some evidence that the strain that circulates in Bangladesh might be more transmissible. It might cause more respiratory symptoms, which helps it spread, but it's also about the setting.
The hospital setting.
Or home. Home, mostly. In Bangladesh, care is often provided by family members without any personal protective equipment.
Right, the chain of care, as they call it. You have a sick person coughing, and their spouse or their child is wiping their brow, cleaning up fluids, trying to feed them.
Exactly. The virus is present in saliva, in urine, in respiratory droplets. If you're caring for a loved one in the late stages of Nipah, their viral load is incredibly high. We've seen these clusters where one person drinks the sap, gets sick, and then 3 or 4 family members and even the doctor who treats them all get infected.
And that's what turns a single spillover event into a community outbreak.
That's it right there.
So we have animal contact, the food supply, and then the sick room. 3 different doors for this virus to walk through.
Okay, let's talk about what happens when it gets inside. Because the clinical progression, well, aggressive seems like an understatement.
Aggressive is putting it mildly. The incubation period is usually about 4 to 14 days, but there have been some outlier cases where it stays dormant for months. But generally you have about 2 weeks.
And it starts out looking just like the flu, which is the deceptive part.
That's the diagnostic fog. You show up at a clinic with a fever, headache, muscle pain, sore throat. Any doctor in a rural clinic is thinking influenza, maybe dengue, maybe malaria. They aren't immediately jumping to extremely lethal zoonotic virus.
But then the turn happens, and the sources all emphasize this turn is incredibly fast.
It shifts from respiratory to neurological. The virus manages to breach the blood-brain barrier.
And that's the encephalitis phase. That's the brain swelling. Patients start getting drowsy, disoriented. They might start having seizures.
I read that the progression from just being confused to falling into a coma can happen in 24 to 48 hours.
It is shockingly rapid. You are essentially watching the brain shut down under the pressure of all that inflammation. And this, of course, is what leads to that staggering mortality rate we mentioned, up to 70%.
But even for the survivors, the story isn't always over.
No. This was the part that gave me chills when I first learned about it. The relapsing encephalitis.
What is that?
It's a rare but documented phenomenon. A patient survives the acute infection, they recover, they go home. Then, months or even years later, they suddenly develop seizures and brain inflammation all over again.
So the virus was just hiding.
It can hide out in the central nervous system, dormant, and then reactivate for reasons we don't fully understand.
So you're never fully sure if you're in the clear. That lingering threat makes the total lack of treatment even more frustrating. Because right now, January 2026, we still don't have a cure, do we?
We do not. There are no licensed treatments for Nipah virus disease, no specific antiviral pill you can take, no vaccine that's been approved for humans.
I did see some mentions of remdesivir in the notes and some antibody trials.
The science is definitely advancing. Remdesivir has shown some efficacy in non-human primates, like African green monkeys, especially if it's given early.
Okay.
And there are some experimental vaccines that have worked in hamsters and monkeys, but these are all still in the realm of research and, emergency compassionate use. They are not things you can just get at your local hospital in rural Bangladesh.
So the standard of care is basically hope for the best.
The medical term is supportive care. We keep you hydrated. We give you oxygen if you can't breathe. We give you anticonvulsants for seizures. We are essentially trying to buy time for your own immune system to win the fight.
But without a direct weapon.
Without a direct antiviral, the virus often just moves faster than the immune response can.
Which brings us to the only tool we really have, prevention. If we can't kill the virus once it's inside you, we have to keep it out. And since we're talking about these endemic regions like India and Bangladesh, the advice has to be really practical.
It has to be behavioral. If you are in these areas, number one, do not drink raw date palm sap. Just don't do it. If it's boiled, like into molasses or gur, it's safe. But raw is a risk you cannot take.
And what about fruit? Fruit hygiene seems like a big one here.
Absolutely. If you pick up a mango or a guava and it looks like something has taken a bite out of it, just throw it away. Do not try to cut around the bite. Just discard the whole thing. That bite mark is a potential inoculation site from a bat.
And on the animal side.
Avoid sick pigs, obviously. But also just be aware of where bats roost. If you see a massive colony of flying foxes in a tree, maybe don't set up a picnic directly underneath it. And for healthcare workers, standard precautions are everything. Gloves, masks, isolation.
So if a patient comes in with encephalitis,
And they've been drinking sap or handling pigs, you have to assume it's Nipah until you can prove it's not.
it seems like so much of this just comes down to respecting that boundary between our world and theirs.
Yeah.
The bat isn't trying to kill us, it's just living its life.
That's the one health lesson right there. The bat is an essential pollinator. We need them for the ecosystem to function. But we also have to understand that they carry a biological payload that is just not compatible with our physiology. When we chop down their forests and plant orchards in their place, or expand our farms into their territory, we're basically shaking the jar.
Shaking the jar, that's a really good way to put it. We're forcing the interaction.
We are, and we have to be smarter about how we design that interface. Whether that means using bamboo skirts to cover the date palm pots so bats can't get in, which is a simple, low-tech solution that actually works, or just better zoning for our livestock. Prevention is an engineering challenge as much as it is a medical one.
So, to pull this all together for everyone listening, Nipah is a zoonotic virus with a frighteningly high kill rate.
It's carried by fruit bats, can be amplified by pigs, and it can slip into our systems through contaminated food like sap or through direct contact.
And it attacks the brain with incredible speed and ferocity.
It does.
And as of today, our medicine cabinet is empty when it comes to a cure.
Which means right now, awareness is our only vaccine.
It really reframes how you look at the world. Before we wrap up, I want to circle back to that map paradox one last time, because that really feels like the big loose thread in this whole detective story.
It is the thread that keeps epidemiologists awake at night. We know the bats in Australia and the Pacific can carry the virus. The potential is there. So what is holding it back? Is it just luck? Or is there some kind of trigger we just haven't pulled yet?
A trigger like climate change, shifting where the bats live, or a new farming practice starting up in a new region.
Exactly. If the ecological conditions in, say, Thailand or Australia suddenly shift to match what we saw in Malaysia in 1999, could we see a new emergence? The virus is there, the host is there. The only missing variable is the spillover event.
And as we've learned, humans are very, very good at creating the conditions for spillover.
We certainly are.
Well, that is a sobering thought to leave on, but an important one. It's a reminder that these detective stories, they don't always have a tidy ending. The case is still open.
The case is definitely still open.
Stay curious, everyone. Wash your fruit, wash your hands, and maybe respect the bats from a distance. Thanks for diving in with us.
Thank you for listening. The content provided in this episode is strictly the personal opinion of the speakers and is provided, as is. It does not constitute a doctor-patient relationship. The information shared should not be taken as professional medical advice or a recommendation for any specific course of treatment. Stay informed, but always talk to your own provider.